Well, my opportunity is to now tell you about my experience as a public school teacher and how the environmental movement has taken over our public schools and our universities. About 20 years ago, in fact it was this year, 1992, at December time, I was reading the Press Democrat, the newspaper in Santa Rosa, a letter to the editor written by a 14-year-old girl who was in my son's same middle school, Rincon Valley Middle School. And this 14-year-old girl had written, because of what she had been taught in her environmental science class, she was ashamed of being human and wished that Homo sapiens had never been created. And this so shook me up. And I was reading this letter in front of my 17-year-old son who was there at the breakfast table with me. And I said, can you believe what this young girl has written? Because of what she's been taught, she wished that Homo sapiens had never been created. He told me, he said, it's true, Mother, the world would be a better place if man were not on it. That was my own son. And I had no idea this indoctrination had penetrated so deeply, even our own family. That son went on to graduate from high school. On his 18th year, he told us that he no longer believed in God, and he was no longer going to go to church. He went on to school at Berkeley, so you can imagine that did not help. He got a master's degree at UC Davis. He's now getting another master's degree in art. He's a biomedical engineer from the one master's. So he certainly has a wonderful, brilliant mind, lots of education. He still says that he does not believe in God, and he's now age 32. So you can see how deep this indoctrination is, and it starts from kindergarten, goes through high school, on into the universities. And if we don't take some stand as parents now to find out what is being taught and to bring our children the truth, then they may be lost. We keep praying for him, and he knows that he's loved and he's always welcome back with all of the family activities. But if we mention religion, he walks out of the room. If we mention anything, even when I tried to pass on information to him of the falsehoods of what he has been taught, not only about environmentalism, but also evolution, he leaves the room. And that is, they have such a grip on our children from kindergarten on. So what are we possibly going to do about it? In my presentation today, I'm going to tell you about my personal experiences with this indoctrination when I went back as a substitute teacher in the schools. And I'll tell you also my personal experience with confronting some university professors in a religious university, and then what we can do about it. I have seen as a public school teacher the most amazing indoctrination. It used to be just in what was known as the environmental science class. It was a separate class. After a few years, it was now mainstream inside the science classroom. It now is mainstream everywhere. If you are teaching English and the sentence that the children are supposed to find the subject and the verb in, the sentence is all about global warming. Isn't that wonderful? In the math class, the word problems that the students are to use, or to figure out the answer to, has something to do with loggers cutting down so many trees. And it used to be you'd actually work the problem. Now the question says, how do you feel about those loggers cutting down those trees? They don't even have to work a problem, but they have to give the politically correct answer that these loggers are horrible. They're the boogeymen of the universe now. And it's just amazing, the indoctrination. I was teaching in an art classroom, and the assignment was for the students to write in a little, or draw in a little thumbprint sketch, something no bigger than their thumb, their concern about what is going on in the world. So you can imagine how many did something about global warming. One little boy had the earth melting into a mud puddle. And after I went around the room and saw this amazing indoctrination that had even come into the art classroom, I wrote on the board ClimateGate, and I said, if I could have your attention, please. I know that you are not normally used to an art teacher lecturing to you, but I would like to comment on the many pictures that I have seen, your concern for global warming. I asked, how many of you have seen that word ClimateGate? No one had, so I said, I would recommend that you take this word and Google it and see what comes up. And of course, when you do that, then the whole story, the true story of the falsehoods that were being passed by emails from these top scientists in England to other scientists telling them, don't you dare tell the truth about there is no real warming, and don't you dare tell the truth about these statistics. Well, someone had hacked into these emails, and that's how the word ClimateGate came out. And so among lots and lots of people who shared those emails, the truth was coming out. But did it ever make it in major media? Not at all. That's why Brian Sussman wrote his book, ClimateGate, to reveal the truth about this. So when I told the classroom about this, one little boy said, but why would they want to do that? Why would they want to lie about the temperature of the earth and make us so paranoid? I said, well, you answered that question yourself. They are trying to make you paranoid. If they can use these fear tactics on you, then they will get you to go along with all of their plans. And I explained what carbon credit trading was all about and why they had to keep these scenarios going of global warming, or the whole trading of air would go poof, and they would not have much success with it. I also told them, whenever you have a question about what is really going on, follow the money. And I told them about Al Gore. In my book about the smart meter that I just wrote, I have Al Gore's web, and it shows how Al Gore is connected to 8 different organizations that he either started himself or he is a member of their board. Every one of those have something to do with carbon credit trading. And the wonderful, cute little scenario that you saw Warren Duffy present to us, it shows that whenever there is carbon credit trading going on, it's like the International Stock Exchange. Whenever there's any kind of stock that is traded, someone gets a fee for the trading. Al Gore gets that fee, and he is getting billions of dollars from all of this. So when I explained that to these students, their little heads were nodding, and a lot of them seemed to be really relieved that the earth was not melting. Was I ever invited back to teach that classroom? No, but I felt it was worth it to let the truth come out. My experience with universities, I have discovered every one of our universities have been doing this, except for some places like Hillsdale College that are totally independent from any government funding. Many of our religious universities take the government funding. Therefore, they have to go along with the approved viewpoint of science. We had a wonderful scientist who came and spoke for our Sonoma County Eagle Forum chapter a few years ago, who told us that as far as he is concerned, all science is now political science. For these scientists to come and get a professorship at a university, they usually have to come with their own grant money. To be able to get that grant money, they have to be willing to teach the lies and pseudoscience that really is behind so much of science now. And he has seen this as a scientist himself who holds a master's in science. So that is how sad it is. My experience with my own son's university, a Christian university, I was just reading the catalog, and from the list of these science classes, I thought, this sounds like they are teaching some of this strange pseudoscience. So I wrote a letter to the president of the university, sent him a copy of a book written by Holly Swanson, who is a wonderful author in the state of Oregon, that is called Set Up and Sold Out, that shows how the green movement has been taken over. And I told the president, just from what I have read in the catalog, I am kind of worried that maybe the truth is not being taught about science at this university. And this university is a Christian university that should be teaching all truth. Well, the president wrote back to me and said, thank you for your letter. I have sent your letter on to 3 different science professors and asked them to respond to you. The head of the physics and astronomy department, because of talking about global warming, the head of the zoology department, because I thought that I had mentioned that the whole statistics of endangered species are totally falsified, and I can't remember what the third one was. But anyway, these 3 professors, because they had been instructed to do so by the president, wrote back to me, and they said, you know, you have to understand that we hold PhDs in science, and you are just a lonely substitute teacher. and they said, if we do not teach the truth about global warming, we would be the laughing stock of all universities. So it doesn't seem to matter if it's true or not, as long as they are accepted. So rather than write back to them, I had to come for a visit to this state anyway, and I made an appointment with all 3 professors, brought more materials, and asked them to please read these. The zoology professor was very kind. He accepted my material, but on his screensaver of his computer, I saw one endangered species after another being flashed, and so I thought, you know, he's obviously already indoctrinated, but at least he was gracious and kind and said that he would read it. And the book I'd sent had been sent on to him, set up and sold out, and I said, have you read it? Because I brought another one for him. He said, no, I don't have any time for that. But it was there on his bookshelf. Then I spoke to the professor who taught physics and astronomy, and I presented all this information, some from Fred Singer, all the great scientists who know the truth about global warming. And as I presented one article after another, he said, oh, how dare you tell me that? How dare you tell me that? I said, but it's true. Just read it. You'll understand. I said, so many of you professors are just kind of here in your ivory tower, and you never get to see what this is doing to the reality of farmers and property owners out there in the world. I grew up on a farm in Idaho. I know what this is doing to farmers everywhere who can no longer use the land for what it was intended to be used for. And I was gracious and kind, I thought. Anyway, I gave him the material, asked him to please read it. I had a plane to catch to get back home. This was on a Thursday. The next Monday, all that material had been sent back to me, unread, with a very short letter saying, I have never been treated so rudely by anyone in my life, and if you do not promise to live the gospel of Jesus Christ from here on out, I want nothing to do with you. This is how it has penetrated Christian universities. So what I did, I gathered all that information up, sent it back to the president of the university, including the letter, made a copy of it. And I said, if this is the scientific method under which your science professors are now teaching, we have a lot to be worried about. They will not even look at new information. And I'm not really sure what happened after that, but I do think this professor must have had his hand slapped or something, because about a few weeks later, he had tried to contact my bishop back home and have me excommunicated. That's how bad it is. And when I explained to the bishop what was going on, he said, I'm not even going to respond to this man. You know, this is so far-fetched. But that's how all these weird concepts and pseudoscience have penetrated even universities. And this is a Christian university. If it's that bad, what do you think it is in our major universities? So what can we possibly do about it? First of all, do exactly what I did. Do your own research. Find out the real truth. Attend conferences like this. You are here learning these amazing truths. And the other thing is, knowledge is power, but only if you take that knowledge and do something with it. And I know that so many of you are already wonderful activists, and you will take this knowledge home and you'll pass it on to your wonderful tea parties or whatever group you belong to. And we would love you also to join Eagle Forum and get the wonderful information that Phyllis Schlafly sends out monthly. Inside each of your packets is a little Eagle Forum brochure that tells you how to join. And you're certainly welcome to start an Eagle Forum chapter. You've met all these wonderful eagles, And we have, as you see, we have Tea Party Eagles as well. We have many groups that head up various organizations. And so we want you to continue to be with like-minded people where you can get wonderful, like-minded information. And then we would like you to write letters and articles like Kevin is doing. Write to your newspaper and keep writing. Write to your assemblymen and your representatives here, your congressmen. Inside your packet was the amazing information that we gave to each of our legislators. Well, we wish that we could have reached each of them, but we have that same information for you in your packet. And it shows there are 2 pages of the indoctrination that is going on in our schools. And this is under the title of a book called Rescue Mission, put out by the United Nations, Agenda 21. And I don't know if you've had the chance to look at it yet. Are you looking at it right now? Would you mind bringing it up? Actually, your whole packet, it's this. Oh, there's. I forgot to bring this with me. It's this one. This is, first of all, it starts off with 4 pages by Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck has really been exposing Agenda 21, and we really want you to read that. It's very well presented. And then this is the letter by Boutros Boutros-Ghali telling about how important it is for the children to read this Rescue Mission book to let them understand Agenda 21. And here it is. It shows a little child holding up the world on his arms, like one little child can go rescue the earth. Then it tells about the chainsaw massacre, how all of our trees are being cut down. And the little child is filled with such horror that anyone would dare cut down a tree. And they use these exaggerated terms. So did you know that here in California, 51 of our lumber companies have been closed down because of the endangered species, the spotted owl? And we have millions and millions of acres of forest that are totally closed to any kind. Oh, great, thank you. That's the other thing I wanted to show you. We actually have the real book. Debbie Bacigalupi got this for me, and this shows you what it looks like. It's all in lovely colors, but total pseudoscience, total fear tactics that would make a little child so paranoid. And then, of course, they turn on their parents because it's the parents that have done all of these evil things to the world. One of the worst pages is about the population bomb, they call it. They call it the baby bomb. And it shows all of these little babies being brought down to earth by storks. And God is in the center, frowning and looking very sad. All these babies are coming to the earth. And then it says, when each baby is born, the earth groans. Isn't that sad? How would that make a little child feel? Just like this 14-year-old girl who wished that Homo sapiens had never been created, just like my son who had been taught the same thing. And this is so sad because it is so based on false science. So we advise you to read these, pass them on to your legislators and people that you want to try to influence. And as we've heard, continue to do so. Don't give up. Try to keep going to your city council. Get them to drop their membership of ICLEI. That's what we're trying to do in Santa Rosa now. And let them know that you really know what is going on. And please pass that information to them. And lastly, pray fervently for our nation. The Lord gave us this wonderful free land and this wonderful Constitution that He intended to be a guide and a similar Constitution for the whole world. And many other countries were trying to base their Constitution on ours. It has kept us free for so long, and now it's being ignored, or it is considered old-fashioned, and they're not even following it all. But we must pray. The Lord wants us to preserve this nation and preserve our freedoms. And pray for each other. Pray that you will have strength. This is definitely what we need in the battles ahead. In my big fat book, called By Stealth and Deception, I have, at the very beginning of it, a quote in James that tells us that it just takes a very small helm to turn a great ship. And there's just one person behind that very small helm doing the turning. So each one of you, I challenge you to be that helm, to have the strength to stand up for what you know is true, and help turn this nation back to where it should be. Thank you so much.